Since the inception of the computing industry that has its roots in the foxholes of World War II, the United States has always been at the frontier of the computer technology industry. Whether it's been the internet, the microprocessor manufacturing industry, the invention of the personal computer, the smartphone revolution, or even the creation of software. Until the beginning of the 21st century, the United States was light years ahead by almost every metric imaginable. There was no competition. Sure, you could give a wink and a nod to some friends in Japan or some up-and-comers in Germany, but whether you liked it or not, the United States was the be-all and end-all when it came to electronics manufacturing, research, and development. However, with the information age of the internet destroying the barriers between everyone and anyone, this just isn't the case anymore, and China, who had been almost universally panned for its lack of ideas, innovation, and creativity, presents the chance to be the new driving force in the internet economy for better or worse. Hello and welcome to Engineering Plus, where we go to the edges of culture, technology, and the limits of engineering itself to give you some of the most interesting content on the internet. Today we're going to be giving 5 reasons why China will take over Silicon Valley. This video is heavily inspired by the recent piece by The Atlantic called How China's Tech Revolution Threatens Silicon Valley, written by Alec Ash. Number 1. The culture. The main differentiating factor many people name when it comes to comparing the industrial inventiveness of the United States to its eastern counterparts is this sort of ethereal, magical entrepreneur's mindset all of America seems to have. And let's not mince words, because this mindset definitely has physical ramifications in the United States. The United States has some of the most patents per capita, businesses started, most billionaires, and America has one of the hardest working workforces on the planet, pulling more hours than a significant number of countries. When you contrast this with a communist China, it makes a lot of sense why China has been so far behind the North American powerhouse. However, a cultural shift being undergone in China that presents a claim to deal with this major flaw in Chinese society. But to understand why, we need a short history lesson. After the Cultural Revolution in communist China practically impoverished the entire population and made it take a step backward financially and educationally, all Chinese parents wanted for their children was a stable income, preferably a banking or state-level occupation, where they could be reliable and safe, which is the very antithesis of the risky entrepreneurship that went on in the United States. However, today, as that generation grows to adulthood, the next generation in China wants to branch out and spread their wings from their parents, and are extremely unsatisfied with their current lives and occupations. A statistic reveals that this culture shift is very apparent, and a Gallup survey reports that 94% of Chinese respondents are unengaged and unhappy with their jobs, a hilariously high number that shows that the entire Chinese economy essentially hates their working lives. The Chinese culture has never been more ready for the change and innovative spirit necessary to make it a startup superpower. But how did China deal with the lack of history with innovation and manage to defy all expectations and instill a startup environment? We'll find this out in number 2, the cities. If 40 years ago you were to ask me or anyone in the United States who knew anything about the industry where the hub of technology would be 40 years from now, I could easily mark it with a pin and drop of a hand: San Francisco. All signs would point easily to that as the capital of technology. It had the access to the microprocessing industries, the computing and technology industries, and more importantly, was surrounded by the top universities like Stanford, UC Berkeley, and more. And surprise, surprise, that's the head of technology today. Even a geographer or citizen of the city would be able to tell you this with the ease of a bird taking flight. However, compare that to China and you're looking at a game of pin the tail on the donkey, when the donkey is a mass of farmland dotted with cities halfway through the industrialization that was already exploding across the United States. The point being that China was more than a little behind, and I wouldn't judge you if you had picked Beijing as your city. But you would be wrong. The center of innovation is none other than Shenzhen, a city that didn't even exist until recently. but I'd forgive you if you thought otherwise. The fact is, China is building cities from the ground up designed to be the foremost epicenters of programming, product design, and artificial intelligence on the planet. Take one step into Shenzhen at night and you're transported to something out of Blade Runner or a dystopian future. And between the winding roads and buried under the smog of industry, you'll find staffless convenience stores, face-recognizing gates, and cheap bicycles presenting what may be the future culmination of tech as it combines further with cities. China's cities have another advantage besides being hand-built by the government, as we'll see in number 3, manufacturing. Love it, hate it, mostly hate it, China's manufacturing has made a name for itself as the birthplace of almost every cheap toy or product created in the developed world. However, as China's manufacturing has grown higher and higher tech, advancing in complexity and significance, China already has been creating products like our iPhone and a myriad of other equipment, from portable battery chargers to computer parts. Several up and coming along with top smartphone companies originate in China's cities. Take solar panels. Thanks to China's desperate need for renewable energy, their manufacturing has dropped the price of solar panels by over 20%. As a result of all this, China's factory workers have grown extremely comfortable with the ins and outs of technology, allowing them to create their own. Take a look at a company like Anker. Not only can Anker produce its own portable battery charger technology because entrepreneurial environment of Shenzhen, but because it is so close to the production line of its own merchandise. It can iterate and develop and improve its products 100 times faster than an American company competing in the same arena. It's not even fair, and it's not even close. American companies have to deal with the higher labor costs, which is endemic to being a developed nation, but it also has to deal with the mountains of regulation and healthcare costs that the Chinese government just doesn't care about. All this combined, essentially China is copying America, but this time they may just be doing it better. Number 4, the people. Let's be blunt, there are so much more people in China than the United States. Compare the United States' population of 323 million about with China's population of 1.379 billion. This seems obvious, but it's a fact that most people seem to overlook when they underestimate the future growth of China and wonder why it has been growing so fast in recent years. Let's not kid ourselves, population is not a guarantee of the quality of the economy. One only needs to look at countries like Russia or India to understand that population does not equal prosperity. However, with that said, as countries began to approach being truly developed, and with that said, the average Chinese national making $8,000 a year, it certainly hasn't gotten there yet. But as the standard of life rises, the population advantage in China will really begin to show. Now, imagine all the entrepreneurial ideas released and revealed in the United States. Then multiply that by over 400% and we begin to see the true potential of the Chinese economy, a potential which it hasn't come close to reaching. If the Chinese had the same living standard as the United States does today, it would have an economy reaching $79 billion. The point that's trying to be made is that China's population, which may have been a hindrance in the past, is one of its greatest assets as we moved into the entrepreneurial era. Number 5, the government. The government must be mentioned in any discussion about a technological revolution occurring in China. The Chinese government is something so unique when compared to our societies that it must be mentioned when trying to understand the massive cultural shift going on in their society. If I could summarize the Chinese government in 4 words, it would be, it does not care. The Chinese government simply does not care what anyone, especially its own people, think of it. If the Chinese people can't come up with their own idea, China steals the idea and ignores the patent violations. If you get hurt on the job in China, it doesn't care about your healthcare, and it doesn't care about your rules and regulations getting in its way. All China cares about is forward progress at all costs, and they're willing to sacrifice any amount of money in order to achieve their goals. Human rights, ethics, environment, the Chinese government does not care and only pays enough attention to these things when it is forced to. Otherwise, China couldn't care less. These are my top 5 reasons China's technology will take over Silicon Valley and possibly the planet. I hope you enjoyed this video commentary, and be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Engineering Plus, out.